I want to share with you that, again, this is all for educational and entertainment purposes. This is not meant for medical advice. This should not be interpreted for medical advice. This is for educational purposes. And if you do have a health condition, please do seek out a healthcare provider. And then the line I have permission from Bill Bankston to use, and I just want to share with you because I just think it's awesome when you're using these energy psychology, belief change modality techniques, these manifestation techniques. He says, and I've added the word manifestation, he uses the word method. When using manifestation techniques, that practitioner is connecting to the energy or spiritual bodies of the client, not the physical body, which is the domain of the medical field and other allied healthcare professionals. So we're talking about the energy and spiritual bodies here. That's what we're talking about. So just wanted to share that with you as well. All right, let's bring up the presentation and introduce our speaker. So it's so weird to be doing this, but here we go. So many of you know me. Some of you may not know who I am. So I'm going to give you just a brief introduction. I am a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. I practice in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. My clinic is called AcuBalance Wellness Center, and I love to learn and study. So some of the designations behind my name there, I have a Bachelor of Science in Math. I have a Doctor of Chinese Medicine, as I mentioned. I'm a Chartered Accountant, so I'm a CPA, Fellow of the ABRM, Clinical Hypnotherapist, Certified in Laser Therapy, and there's many other little modalities that I've loved to learn throughout the years, and I'm going to share with some of those with you guys today. I'm going to start with just a story because it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today and the tools that I want to share with you. So way back in 1995, actually, I had an experience of deep sadness, just incredible sorrow came over me. And I don't have a history of depression. I don't have family history of mental health issues. And it was just odd. It was back, I wasn't actually in Chinese medicine at the time. I was just finishing up and getting ready to write my board exams to become a CPA, a chartered accountant. And for some reason, I don't know why I did this. However, what I chose to do that day, in the middle of the day, is to draw a hot bath in the middle of the day. And I went into the bath, and I had shared accommodation. So my roommate was a female, and she had the most awesome things in our bathroom. So I put in essential oils into my bathtub. I put in some Epsom salts into my bathtub. I put on I lit up some candles just to have the candle light there, even though it was the middle of the day. And I put on incredibly sad music. And I sat there and just focused on my sadness. And as I focused on this deep sorrow, it got intense and tears started coming down my eyes. And then in a moment, it transformed into joy and bliss. What an incredible feeling I was experiencing. It felt so good. So I wanted to experience more of it. So I, with effort, try to be more sad so I can experience more bliss. And I just could not feel sad. I felt pure bliss. And I don't know why at that time, why that was the case. I could not understand why that had happened. Now I have a much better understanding of what had happened to me, and I'll share that experience with you as well. Perfect. So I'm going to share right off the bat the 5 steps. So this is the 5 steps to manifestation. And then we're going to go into a little bit more detail. I'm going to share the theory behind all this as well, because without knowing the why behind something, or when you know the why, to put it better, the how becomes much easier. It becomes much easier to follow through and do the practice. So these are how I've distilled down the 5 steps to mastering manifestation. The key here is quieting body and mind. This is key. Then to have a very clear set of intention, your focus. I call this the GPS. Always adding an emotional charge, removing any subconscious blocks you may have, and then getting out of your way. Okay, just totally getting out of the way. Now, what I'm going to share is simple, powerful, and effective. So simple that it's very easy to dismiss it and ignore it. And I love Einstein's quote here where he says, make things as simple as possible, but not simpler. So in my training, when I did Psyche, another form of energy psychology, one of the intentions we set out before every treatment, which I'll set out for us today as well, is I want this to be simple, powerful, and effective. And so the stuff that I'm going to share with you is incredibly simple, as I mentioned, and powerful and effective through my experience, through my client's experience. However, it's simple. And as I mentioned, that makes it at risk of being dismissed. A principle that I believe in, I follow, I experience is your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And this is so important, especially during this time of isolation, during this global pandemic that we've been experiencing. Because the first reaction that many people had, and what the media and the government, was to go and work on the outside. How are we going to fix this? What do I got to go work on? And realistically, in this type of work, and my experience is, it's an inside job first. So first we have to go and work on our inside. And so it really is an inside job. And to take note that your outer world truly is a reflection of your inner world. And so if we look at what Bruce Lipton says about this, now Bruce Lipton is the author of The Biology of Your Beliefs. He's one of the earlier pioneers on epigenetics. And he states that your life does not reflect what you want. It reflects the programs you were given. And when we're referring to programs here, we're talking about your subconscious programs, your subconscious beliefs. He goes on to share that your mind, think of your subconscious and conscious mind. Your subconscious is like a 20 million bit computer, so incredibly fast processor. And your conscious mind is like a 40-bit computer, so 40-bit versus 20 million. And so that 20 million bit computer is such a great processor, so much so that when you sleep at night and your conscious mind turns down, your heart still pumps, your blood still circulates. That's the power of this processor. When you dream, it can seem like it was 3 hours, but when you wake up and look at the clock, it was only 5 minutes. It's a super processor. Think of somebody who's learning to play the piano, and they're going to learn to play a really complicated piece on the piano. The first little bit when they're practicing and hitting those keys, the tune doesn't sound so well. And they're focusing. You have to focus so hard. Any distraction just takes them off their game because they're in their conscious mind. They're in that 40-bit computer, and it can only take so much information in this conscious mind, this 40-bit computer, so it can get overwhelmed easily. And so there's so much focus going on. But with repetition and practice, eventually it gets imprinted on your subconscious mind. It becomes habituated. And somebody, that same person now, can be playing this incredibly complicated piece, a piece from Beethoven maybe, while looking at you in a conversation. So not even looking at their fingers in the keyboards. They're looking at you. Their hands are moving faster than your eyes can track, having a conversation with you. That's the 20 million bit process we're talking about. That is the subconscious mind. Now, in our lives, again, Bruce Lipton goes on to share, as many other neuroscientists, on average, 95% of the time, we are drifting into our subconscious programming, into our subconscious mind, 95% of the time. However, often that 95% are programs that we did not choose. They were given to us at birth. They were given to us through the people that took care of us and through society. So we're running programs that often don't serve us, and we're drifting into that. We have desires. That's the 5%. We have our desires, wants, and needs. Often, though, the conscious, subconscious aren't congruent. And when we drift, we don't get exactly what we're hoping or wanting. And so the power of the subconscious is just incredible, that you can use your conscious mind, the will to eat something and bring it to your mouth. That's the conscious. And then it just does the digesting. You don't say how to digest. You don't do that. You just eat, and then your body digests all on its own. So that is the power of the subconscious mind. Team, are you guys changing it, or am I changing it? Just checking, because I know I'm having a few clicks here. I do see it change eventually, but let me know if I'm doing anything that I need to do anything better as the presenter here. So what happens when the conscious mind and the subconscious mind conflict? Well, when they conflict, the subconscious mind wins. So your behaviors and your actions are always congruent with your beliefs and programs. So when your subconscious and conscious conflict, the subconscious wins. When your heart and mind conflicts, the heart wins. So your actions and behaviors are always going to follow your programming. That's why if somebody's wanting to lose weight, we often will go work on our behaviors. But that's at the end of the line, the behaviors. The behaviors, there's something that's of higher altitude, higher priority, ranking, and that's the subconscious mind. And so if you really want to make a change, you want to change on the subconscious level because that all trickles down to your actions and behaviors. And so much in our lives in society, we work on the behavior level, the bottom of the pyramid. And that's why those things don't last very often. They're very difficult to change because the commander is still the same. And eventually you make these changes, but the habit, the 95% of the time, you're going to drift back to this habit and whatever you've done is going to get undone. So your actions and behaviors follow your programming, they follow your beliefs. And that's why it's an inside job. When I said the external environment is a reflection of your internal environment, and we'll go into more detail on, what do I mean by that? Your actions are congruent with your programs and behaviors. And so this is why it's an inside job to go inside and start to reprogram those subconscious programs to change those that don't work for you. I'm going to share with you a story of one of my patients on just the power of the subconscious mind. So she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and her main symptoms and complaints that went along with her diagnosis were she had fatigue, she had aches, and she had depression. And in our session, we used acupuncture as well as these belief change modalities. Now, I love using acupuncture when I can do it in person because acupuncture has the ability to put you into this alpha brainwaves. This is when you're more suggestible, to put you into that parasympathetic versus the sympathetic. And so I love acupuncture just as an induction tool. When I use hypnosis, I like to use acupuncture because it's one of my induction techniques. You don't have to use acupuncture to do this. I do this now on telehealth without acupuncture. And I just sharing with you, she came to my clinic, and I like to do when I'm in person, I combine my functional medicine, acupuncture, and these belief change modalities in my sessions. So we do acupuncture, and then in her session, basically did a form of timeline therapy for those that are familiar with NLP. It's similar to alternative life balance for those that are doing Psych-K. And I had her go back in time where she remembered when she was healthy, because she wasn't always diagnosed with fibromyalgia. She didn't always experience muscle aches, fatigue, and depression. And I had her re-experience what it was like to be healthy back in the past, what she looked like, what it felt like, what people were saying. And then we future-paced her when she would be healthy again. How would she know? How would she look differently? And she went into detail describing her posture and how she breathes differently. She shared her hairstyle had changed, and she was sharing this as if it was happening now, but it was a future time, but she was living it now on my table with her eyes closed. It was an internal experience. And I asked her what people were saying about her, and so she had all this positive reaffirmation from the outside. She shared with me her positive internal inside voice, what that sounded like, and what it felt like. She was really in that body where it felt vigor and vital and healthy. Anyways, that was our session, and she comes back 2 weeks later, and she shares with me that she's really sore. So back then, one of my programs came up. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing it well enough. I'm a fraud as a healer, right? Because she's feeling really sore. And she goes on to share with me that she joined a gym recently, and now that she's just started working out, she's feeling sore. But her mood's really good. Everything's doing well. She's just sore. So this wasn't a negative thing, these aches. This was from the gym. Now, something really important here. Two important things I need to share. One part, there's information I didn't tell you that I'm going to tell you in a moment. The first part is, notice I never told her to exercise. If you have fibromyalgia, if you have fatigue or depression, exercise is one of the things that people may recommend to help with those symptoms, right? I never said anything like that. All we did is we created a healthy image of herself. We set her GPS to be healthy. And then her subconscious mind gave her that idea to join the gym. Now, check this out. This is what makes this really special. She walks to work every day, 5 days a week. She walks by a gym on the way to work and back by that gym on the way home. So that's 10 times a week. And let's say she works 50 weeks out of the year. That's 500 times a year. And she's been at that job for 3 years. 1,500 times she's walked by that gym, never has entered that gym. After our session, she shared with me as she was walking, she just got this idea to join the gym. And she went in and joined the gym. And obviously that is a great lifestyle intervention exercise for somebody like her or for anybody. This is the subconscious at work. So I'm going back to this 20 million bit computer. We see all the opportunities. The subconscious does. It sees everything. It's this supercomputer. Your conscious mind is a 40-bit computer. It can't take in all this information. It needs to filter out. So what is being filtered? Well, if your subconscious program is, I am sick, I am a victim, I'm not worthy, I'm not healthy, if that's your program, then you're not going to see opportunities other than things that will reaffirm you being a victim, not healthy. Now, on the table, she experienced, which imprinted on her subconscious, a healthy her. And now the subconscious says, that's my new GPS. That's who I am. That's who I'm becoming. And it starts to let those opportunities come in and percolate into your conscious mind. Just like when you are looking for a car, you notice the car make and model that you're looking for, you start to notice that make and model all over the roads. There are no more of that make or model on the road. It's just that has been set in your subconscious level, kind of into your beacon here, so it becomes something you start to notice. So this is why it's important. What are we feeding our subconscious mind? Now, this is a story I like that I want to share. Now, she's not my patient, but it's somebody that did some of this belief change modalities that was shared with me. So I just got to share it because again, it will show the power of the mind and making these small changes, what they can do for you. So 45-year-old lawyer, and she was aware that she often sabotages her relationships with men. She had shared that she finds actually really good men and she ruins the relationships, often unintentionally, but sometimes even intentionally, meaning as she's about to push the person's button, she knows she shouldn't do it and she can't even help herself. Even though she knows she shouldn't, she would do it and sabotage her relationship, ruin these relationships. So in her session, when she was regressed back, she has a memory when she's 4 years old, and she has an older sister that's 7, and her mother shares with her, girls, when you finish your dinner, you guys can have popsicles. Well, her 7-year-old sister ate her dinner really quickly and got her popsicle. Well, her 4-year-old herself, she was diddle-daddling, and as soon as she noticed her sister having a popsicle, even though she wasn't done her dinner, really wanted that popsicle and started asking and wanting for her popsicle. And her mother sternly said, no, you have to eat your dinner to get your popsicle. Well, like many 4-year-olds do that live in the moment, she had a little bit of a temper tantrum. And her mom, at the end of a tiring day, had no patience for it and yelled at her daughter and sent her to her room. And her daughter, and this woman interpreted it at that time as, my mommy loves my sister better than me. My mommy doesn't love me. I'm not lovable. That got imprinted at 4 years old, and it's easy to understand because our brains are in that theta zone all the time at age 4, so everything's being imprinted so easily. We don't have the conscious mind developed where we get into beta to filter out. And so she took on this program, I'm not lovable. And as I said earlier, when the subconscious and conscious mind conflict, the subconscious wins. So when she is in a relationship with a lovely man and he's showing her lots of love, well, her program says you're not lovable. So she will unconsciously sabotage that relationship. And as she was aware, even intentionally. Now, what was cool in her regress session is she's there as a 4-year-old. So she's re-experiencing the emotions, the feelings, and memories of a 4-year-old. And she's there as a 45-year-old. And at that time, with the work of her therapist, she was able to see that all that happened was my mom did not give me a popsicle. She was able to come with that 45-year-old mind and heal that right then and there, that she gave meaning to that no popsicle as I'm not lovable. And she was able to change that program, that meaning in that moment to that does not mean I'm not lovable, and make a major shift in her life. So we often self-sabotage each other. And it's kind of like a law of attraction, right? It's one of the reasons you want to start changing or making changes on the behavior level. It doesn't work because there's programs running that you are drifting into 95% of the time. There are programs that we're running that we're not aware of that are really running our lives. And we are more the same than we are different. And so when I say this is when I see people in my practice, and so the patients that I see in my own stories, we all have a different narrative. We all have very different stories. But when you start to distill it down, the programs that we're running are the same. These beliefs. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. There's not enough money. I'm not likable. I'm not lovable. The really big part of it distills down to some type of theme of I'm not enough. This seems to be the theme that we all experience. Now, I'm going to share with you a video clip here. And this is literally, I took a video of my TV. And this is also interesting on how when you start to tune in and open up parts of your brain and tap into that creative side, how the universe is super conscious. These hands come from the heavens and open up these invisible doors you didn't know exist. It's quite amazing how the synchronicity starts to happen. So I found this video when I was offering a workshop like this, an intensive one. So it was a 6 to 8 hour version of this in person in Vancouver. And I was working on the presentation, and I come upstairs to fold laundry, and the hockey game was on, and I tend to not really watch much hockey. So that was the channel. And this is the clip that starts automatically, which to me was like the universe speaking to me. And so now I'm going to have it speak to you and share with you this, because you're going to see how perfectly timed this is for our discussion. Now, I'll share with you, this is a Montreal Canadian player, Armia, and the story behind it is he's a superstar, an all-star, but he gets traded, and it knocks his confidence down, and all of a sudden his game goes to crap. He's not playing well, and he's beating himself up, and it takes a while, I'm sure he got some help, to get his confidence back and to change that self-talk. And this is really powerful because, when you look at these super athletes or these great celebrities, we think they must have it all. However, they have so many insecurities because as an athlete or as a celebrity, an actor, it's so competitive. So you're getting so many rejections as an actor, and only a few make it. And as an athlete, so many times you're not good enough. You don't make the team, or you don't make the line. And so it seems to me how easy it is for an athlete to have these programs are not good enough, running and always behind, trying to work through these. The key with this story is he's a superstar. He's an all-star, but he got traded. And all that happened is he got traded, but his program came in. I'm not good enough. That program starts to play, and then his game goes way down the tube, and he does come out of this. But it was just really cool, first of all, that this shows up on this on TV, and the synchronicity, because we're going to talk about this. I'm working on this talk. This is the section I'm working on. This goes back to the idea that your external environment is a reflection of your internal environment, meaning he always had the skills. It's not like he got traded and then his skills disappeared. His program got triggered and his game went to crap for a while until he regained his confidence. Your external environment is a reflection of your internal environment. And I need controls, please. There we go. Thank you.
Army is another big piece of.
So I hope I've emphasized how important the subconscious mind is in this whole process. This is the area we want to tap into. So how do we tap into that part of the subconscious mind? And what do we need to do? So the very first step to awaken your inner healer and to bring in manifesting skills It's necessary to quiet the body and the mind. This is a key step. If your body's tensed or your mind is busy, then you're not going to be able to access this creative aspect of your mind. So the very first step, and we're going to go into some of these tools, but the key is quieting the mind. This is the key, and there are tools for this. I love this quote, because what happens if your mind and body isn't quiet, right? In Chinese medicine, we call it, we can call it qi stagnation. I've heard it called resistance and friction. You feel it. You feel it in the body when you've got stagnation, when there's friction, there's a feeling. I get it in my chest. You just know things aren't great. It's not a good feeling in your body. And when things are in flow and you're connected and things are going well, you're expansive, limitless. You feel it. You can tell the difference if you're able to quiet and tune into this. So this quote says, you can't change the projected world, but you can change mind, the projector. Just notice when things are out of balance. There's a built-in signal that will always let you know. It's called stress. And this goes again to everything that happens is neutral and we give it meaning. You can't change the projected world. You can't change the external world. However, you can change your internal world because your perception is your reality. Everything that's happening to you, you're making it, it's your perception, which is based on your subconscious programs. And so there's both public and practitioners on our talk today. So when you are in stress, when your body feels threatened, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, also known as your fight or flight. And your brain goes into that high beta wavelength. And the sweet spot for manifestation, awakening your healer is alpha brainwaves, or the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digest and breathe and feed. So when you're threatened, your body starts to mobilize all of its energy for survival. That means this energy, the resources in your body are not available for healing because they have been mobilized to survive. This is the fight or flight response. So energy or resources, blood flow literally is diverted away from digestion, is diverted away from reproduction. It's not a time to reproduce. You need to survive. And many of the things that trigger our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight, are really not beneficial to our survival. Your clinic being closed in isolation, or you're not being able to go out in isolation. Not that you would like something like that. However, it's not like your life is threatened at that moment. It's not like you're about to get hit by a car or a tiger is chasing you. That's when you need the fight or flight and all this energy to be resourced so you can fight or run. That is a survival benefit to kick on the nervous system then. Otherwise, most of these things are unfortunate events, but not necessarily needing the sympathetic overdrive to come in. And there's so much energy that gets resourced and taken away from all other parts of your body, so much so that we've heard stories where a mother has been able to lift a car off her child, right? And then a day later, she can't lift it. So there's just amazing amounts of energy. And if we're constantly triggering this fight or flight response and we don't discharge it by lifting up a car or fighting off an animal or running really hard, that's how we discharge the energy, then it gets pent up in the body and we start to have a lot of disease manifest. And if you want to know if you have like sympathetic tone happening, sympathetic dominance happening, then some of the signs are insomnia, anxiety, sore, tight, tense neck muscles, digestive issues. These are the things, probably fertility as well. These are the things that will impact because your energy is being mobilized for survival. And when you can elicit the relaxation response, the parasympathetic, known as the rest and digest, breathe and feed, get your brain into alpha brainwaves, which is a form of detached relaxation, then you now free up the energy for creativity, for healing, for reproduction, for digestion. So you're constantly having an internal dialogue because your mind, you experience everything through your mind. You don't really see anything. It's an experience of your mind. The colors, the smells, everything you have is a mind experience. And so whatever default programs you're running, many of us have negative self-talk, and our programs are bringing in the worst case scenario in our mind, and we're constantly in the sympathetic system. It's kind of like if you're driving a car on a highway. I've been told, because I'm not a car enthusiast, but if you're driving a car and you rev up the RPMs to pass another car, that's actually really good for the engine, they say, if it's a gas engine, to have the engine rev once in a while. However, if you drove 100 miles with the RPMs at 7, you're going to burn out your engine. It's not good for the engine. So the sympathetic nervous system is not a bad nervous system. You can't survive without it. So much so that you're alive because your ancestors had a good sympathetic nervous system. Because when they saw that lion, they hid, they got scared, they got into fight or flight, and they either froze, hid, ran, or fought it off with whatever tools they had. They survived. The person that did not have an involved sympathetic nervous system, that was always chilled out, they're the one that saw the lion and said, oh, there's a lion. The universe will protect me. I have good energy. And they walk in front of the lion and they got eaten. They didn't survive. Okay? So there is a good time for your sympathetic nervous system. Just like the yin yang, it's relative. It's not like the sympathetic nervous system is bad. It just, we run it predominantly, and that is not good for our health and for creating stuff in our life. So the key is to free up energy through relaxation, through relaxation techniques, anything to elicit the relaxation response. Herbert Benson has written lots on this. He's been published research on this in the NIH as well. Check out Herbert Benson. So this is the key. And I'll share with you that it's a training. And so how do I relax? Well, this is what we're going to learn. We're going to learn some techniques on how to relax. And it is a training, because just like the pianist had to practice and practice until it became habituated, there's training and practice for your mind to be able to elicit the relaxation response on command. You can do this. And then there's what I call super learning techniques. Actually, I don't say that. There's Bruce Lipton, who I mentioned earlier. He calls them super learning, also known as energy psychology or belief change modalities. How do you get into that subconscious quicker to change those programs, erase the ones you don't like and put on new ones? So I've mentioned a couple of times about these alpha brainwaves. And so when you're looking at this chart, when you're in, and you're never in just one, by the way, the amplitudes are always changing. You're always going through all of these throughout the day. However, if you're in good focus, getting stuff done, and you're enjoying your work, you're kind of in low beta. If you are stressed out and overwhelmed, you're in high beta. You're kind of useless. You're overwhelmed. You've lost it. You're just not thinking anymore. High beta, not good brainwaves to have. Most of us are functioning that quite a bit. Alpha is like Alpha is detached relaxation. This is a place where you start to work in your subconscious level. This is where you start to free up energy for healing. This is where you start to get into other areas of your brain for creativity. And then you got theta, which is really into that subconscious level, and then delta is when you're sleeping. And as children, we are our first few years of our life, from 0 to 7, maybe 0 to 12, we are in that delta, theta, and even alpha. So we are being programmed by our environment on a regular basis as children. And then eventually the conscious mind gets more evolved, and then we start to go into that more into the beta. It's really important, and the tools I'm sharing are about eliciting the alpha brainwaves, because it's the bridge between theta, the unconscious, and beta, the conscious, is alpha. And so if you've ever had a dream where you just felt like you've solved all world problems, you're waking up, you're so excited, it was such a profound dream. And as you wake up, the dream starts to leave you, like it's just going, and you can't remember it, but you knew it was brilliant, but you cannot recall it. And within 2 minutes, you just have a bit of a feeling, but you have no recollection. Well, you're in theta. You're in that awesome place where you're tapping into superconscious, tapping into areas of your brain where there's answers to so many things. That's the theta part. And the alpha is the bridge. But because your alpha is not well developed, you went from theta, because that's normal, theta, alpha, beta, you go right into beta. And because you don't have a good bridge, it doesn't get carried over from theta into beta. So if you want to really learn to remember your dreams, that's going to be a big part of that, is developing your alpha. And everything we're talking about today is developing your alpha. If you ever wonder, why did I knew that dream was profound, why don't I remember it? Yeah, it went from theta, alpha, beta real quick. And now you don't have the link between the theta and the beta anymore, because your alpha is just not predominant. So this is my process that I have come to learn and share. And I do this in my clinic. I am going to be offering this as a training, a comprehensive training. It's going to be 8 hours over 4 days, so 2 hours a day, starting sometime in May. And I'll share more about this at the end. What I've done is I've looked at all the people I've read and studied and workshopped, and this just came to me one day. I just realized this works for everybody's process for the most part. And so I'm going to share this with you. When I say everybody's, I'm talking about I've been to the Joe Dispenza workshop. So now when I look at this model, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see how this works for that. My local teacher in Vancouver, so grateful for all the work I've learned through my teacher of consciousness, Gila Golub. Then all the books I've read, the Bruce Liptons, the 5 Thieves of Happiness, Charles Hannell. I mean, my list, I read on average 3 books a month for the last several years. And so when I look at all these books and all these workshops I've done, my EFT training, my rapid transformational therapy training, I can apply this model to everything so far. So it works for me, and I'm going to share it with you. Remember, I like to distill things down, simplify them, right? So this is me simplifying a process. The reason the how to present moment is key here is many of you may be familiar with Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And in his book, he talks about when you are literally in the present moment, suffering transforms and you start to have joy and bliss. This is what happened to me when I was sad back in 1995, when I had that deep sorrow. What happened to me is I got really present with my emotions rather than running away from my sadness, rather than going to, studying, working, eating, sex, whatever it is, everything we use to distract ourselves, to defer our feelings, numb our feelings. I decided just to face it, look at it face on. That's what I did. And so when I read Eckhart Tolle's book, I was like, I don't know how to just present moment. He says, be present moment. Everybody says present moment. And I really didn't have the patience to do 40 years of monk work, meditation. I needed to know how to do this now, really quickly. And so these are what I call super learning tools, but they are literally tools and gimmicks to get you into the present moment. Because when you're in the present moment, that's when the miracles can happen. So these are this is my how-to present moment. If I was going to write a book, which I am, this is the how-to present moment. So there's 3 steps. You need to notice, then accept, then choose again. So let's go into each of these. First step is to notice. You just got to notice it, because if you don't notice that you are being triggered, that you're in that fight or flight, then you are at the effect of what's happening to you. You are amplifying the negative emotion, negative experience. Everything that happens to us is neutral. Then we give it meaning. And the meaning comes from our programming, right? Our subconscious programming that we've already gotten since age 0 to 7. And so the first thing is not to take it personally. And so my clinic got shut down. All that's happened is my clinics got shut down. Everything else, I'm going to give it meaning. So the first thing to present moment is just to notice that friction, that chi stagnation, to notice it. All you have to do, and if you can just start to notice, that's the first step to be not identified fully with what's happening. I will share with you, you still experience the negative emotion. It's not like it just goes away immediately. However, you are going to learn a tool to transform it. So the first step is to notice, I'm triggered, I have friction. So you notice it. Everything that happens is neutral. Then we get to give it our meaning. Meaning, this is where your free will comes from. You don't get to choose the environment so much, but you get to choose your perception, your experience of that environment. That's your free will. You get to choose how you feel. Nothing and nobody can make you feel anything. This is where your free will comes into. First step is you notice, I'm being triggered. I'm going to share a story about this, about everything is neutral and we give it meaning. And this is an old story. I've heard it in many different cultures. I think it goes way back thousands of years, Buddhist stories as well. But here's my version of it. So back before there was cars. So this is several hundred years ago. And there was a poor old man that lived on his land, and he had a 20-year-old son. And one day, 3 wild horses wandered their way into his stable. And the next day, his community came to him and said, "You are blessed. What a blessing. You have 3 wild horses now, these 3 stallions. You are truly a wealthy man now. And his response was, I don't know if I'm wealthy. I don't know if this is a blessing. All I know is that 3 stallions have entered my land, and I now own 3 stallions. The next day, while his son was taming one of the wild horses, he fell and injured his arm that was non-repairable. So, he lost the use of his arm for life. And his community, his neighbors came by and said, old man, you were right. It wasn't a blessing. It's a curse. Your only help, your son has lost use of his hand. You're surely going to be poorer than you were even before you had the horses, because you're too old and weak to work the land, and now your son can't help you. This really is a curse. And he says, no, I don't know if this is a curse. All I know is that my son has lost the use of his arm. The next day, the army comes through his village. They're at war with another country, and it's a losing battle. Most men are not coming back from this war, and they've come to recruit able men. And they take all the able men from this village to go fight this war, but they leave his son behind because he has no use of one of his arms. And the community comes back to him and goes, oh man, you're right. It is a blessing that your son has lost the use of his arm. At least you have your son. Our husbands and sons may never come back to us. You are truly blessed. And the story continues. I don't know if it's a blessing, etc. The moral of the story here is that everything that happens to you is neutral, and then you give it meaning. So you literally see the world through the lenses of your subconscious programming. So much so that they say 50% of your memory is made up. So you can only take in so much. Remember the conscious, 40 bits. And then you start to just fill in stuff. So you actually don't have this beautiful memory movie stream. It actually makes me think of the court of law when we have witnesses, how from a neuroscience point of view, it's absurd that we can have somebody's testimony of what happened be used in court, since we know through neuroscience, 50% of our memories are made up. So just thought I'd put that out there. I don't know why that came to my mind, but that came to my mind. 50% of what you remember is made up. So in my practice, it's interesting when people are regressed and they're sharing stories of their past, and they have these traumatic emotions that are coming up with their story. When the healing happens, one of the key signs for me, when the programming is changing, when they're pruning the old wiring and laying down new wires, new synapses, new subconscious programming, is they voluntarily will share a new perception of the story. They'll have a different feeling, a different story about what happened. They'll start to see it at a different angle. And that's showing that the programming is changing, because we only live in the now, and everything in the past that we're remembering, we're making up 50% of it based on the programs. So if you change your program, guess what? Your memories will start to change as well. And I have many examples that I'll share in the comprehensive course that we're going to do in May. So the first step is just to notice. Notice you're triggered. Notice you feel friction. The second step of how to present moment is to accept what is, to get in the present moment. And there's several present moment tools that I like to use for myself. So I do these personally, and I share also in my clinical practice as well. There's the breath. We had, I think, every Conscious Tuesday speaker so far, Randine Lewis, Keith Bell, Yvonne Farrell, and Laurie Deschar, all talked about how important the breath is. There is a surrender and release technique from the Course of Miracles. There's whole brain position from Brain Gym, also used a lot in Psyche. Emotional freedom technique. I don't have it on here. I'm sure you can use EMDR. I'm not currently trained in that. Inner child work, barring Katie's 4 questions. All of these tools are bringing you into the present moment. When I was sad that day and I went into the bath, I became literally present with my sadness. And when I became present, that's when it transformed immediately into bliss. And so when you are in the present moment, what happens? You are fully conscious. You are resourced. When you are triggered and you are not present moment, then you go into the sympathetic, you go into the high beta. You are now at the effect of your environment, and you are now amplifying the emotions. You are making the story real. If you're able to become present moment, get into the alpha brainwaves, get into the parasympathetic, then you are no longer focused into the amygdala, the reptilian brain, the fight or flight brain. You're no longer in survival mode. You are now whole brained because you're no longer high beta sympathetic. You are in alpha still. And when you're in alpha, you are whole brain and you're fully resourced. And as Eckhart Tolle said in his book, The Power of Now, when you are present moment, you can choose then to remove yourself from the situation. You can then change or improve the situation. And if you cannot remove yourself from the situation or change or improve your situation, then you continue to accept what is. And by doing this, accepting what is and staying present moment, fully focused, you free up energy for healing. You access those parts of your creative brain, and you can come up to solutions that you would never have thought of before. That's why the key of quieting the mind is so important, because without it, you are at the effect of whatever's happening to you. And so we notice I'm being triggered. I feel friction. I feel resistance, chi stagnation. I use one of my tools, accepting what it is that I shared with you a moment ago. And then once I feel a shift, and it's a shift, you feel it's a vibration, you feel the shift. How do you know when you're not triggered? You know that you're resourced. You can sense it. You're still feeling some of that emotion, but there's that witness with you now. There's a part of you that's observing yourself almost. And now you're fully resourced. And when you're in that alpha brainwaves, this is when the free will comes up. So on the NAC, the C stands for choose again. This is now when you get to choose and use your free will. So if I don't want to feel frustrated and angry, if I don't want to feel lack, then what do I want to feel, right? Well, if you want to be healthy, then you want to practice what it feels like to feel whole. Bring that vibration up in your body. Because when you're in alpha, you can start to program this vibration into your subconscious, because your subconscious is every cell of your body. It's not just in your brain. Your subconscious exists in every cell of your body. If you want to be wealthy, then practice feeling abundant. It's not the money. I want $10 million. It's not the money. What does the money bring to you? For most people, the idea of being wealthy, the feeling, the program that they're looking for, the freedom to do what they want, to be safe, to feel safe, to have opportunity, to be of influence. That's what wealth is. When you want to be wealthy, why do you want to be wealthy? Why do you want the money? Distill it down again. Just like we distill down the self-sabotaging negative programs, you want to distill down the positive programs. So what is the money going to do for you? You want to experience loving relationships? Then practice feeling love and compassion and empathy. You want to feel happy? Then practice feeling joy and gratitude. So that is the NAC. Now today's an introduction. In May, I'm going to go into detail for our 8-hour workshop. We're going to learn how to do all the N and the A and the C. We're going to experience it. It's very experiential. And I do this one-on-one in my clinic, and now I'm doing it on telehealth. And the feedback has been wonderful for my patients. It's such a joy to watch people have these transformations. And for me, because I grew up quite insecure. And so even though around me, my environment, people see success, I was quite miserable on the inside for many years. And I kept on wanting to achieve more to fill that hole, that gaping hole of not good enough, of lack. And now I can have abundance and still feel good on the inside. See, before, the external environment, to you guys, it might look great back then, but inside I was suffering and struggling. And it was my insecurity that drove me to be more successful. And I flipped that, and now I have it on the inside, and now I get to really enjoy it on the inside and see how the abundance and health comes to me much easier than it used to come to me. So that's where you get the choose again part. You really do get what you project, and that's why looking at affirmations may not always work, right? Because what are you really putting out into the universe? You may say, I'm whole and complete. I have abundance and opportunity. But really what's coming off of you often is fear and lack. And that's what the universe picks up. That's the beacon that's being going out there. Your intention, your thought is one thing, but your feeling is different. And that's really what's going out there. So your external environment truly is a reflection of your internal environment. So when you look at your external environment, if you don't like what's happening, you need to or want to, or I invite you to go inside and check on what's going on, because you get what you project. And so much of us have such negative internal dialogue. And I love this photo at Echo Point here. And look what he's saying out to the universe to get the echo. You're the most handsome, intelligent guy to ever come up here. And then obviously that gets echoed back to him. So your self-talk is very important here. And we know through science that we have mirror neurons. So you literally are like a Wi-Fi, and you're putting things out into the field. And so you want to ask yourself, what are you putting out into the field? Are you purifying the field, or are you toxifying the field? And they've done studies or experiments at airports back when we were actually using airports before we were in isolation. And they'd have somebody sit at the gate and keep checking their watch while tapping their foot nervously, and then start to watch people in the waiting area and start to see them get agitated and start to look at their clock. And then they would go somewhere else and do something more calming. And just notice how people
Hi, everyone. I think we lost Dr. Brown.
And so we keep liking to blame everybody. And I'm inviting people now to go inside and see where we have fear or hate and start to transform that, because it's an inside job. So I like this quote. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. That's from Eckhart Tolle. And Viktor Frankl wrote this. Now, Viktor Frankl, his book's skipping me. Is it As a Man Thinketh? Can somebody Google that? That's what's coming to my mind. Anyways, he's a psychiatrist, and he wrote a book. But just check out this quote, because he was in a concentration camp during the Nazi reign. And this is something so just think of his environment. I know we're in an uncomfortable situation, many of us, with isolation and not being able to work for many people. Look at his situation, his environment. And he wrote this: when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. I'm just reminding you early in the talk, I said, your behaviors and actions are congruent with your beliefs. Your actions and behaviors are always congruent with your programs. So the point I really wanted to make that, yes, we can go and work on the outside. The first step, though, is to go work on the inside. So for the Chinese medicine practitioners, the yin within yang. First go in and work on the yin aspect. And then the yang, or the activity, comes from that. So your doing comes from your being. Eckhart Tolle shares this a lot in his discourses. It's the doing that comes from your being. We're often judging or looking at people and seeing their doing. However, we don't know what the being's like. And two individuals could be doing the same thing. However, their beings are very different. And that will change the effect of their doing as well. So now let's review our manifestation techniques here, and then bring this to you guys. So I'm going to kind of hopefully bring this together here. So the first step I mentioned is you need to clearly set your intention. You have to have focus. You have to know what you want. My favorite patients, when they come where they're looking to create change in health using their subconscious mind, or looking to create a new reality for themselves to manifest, a lot of people come in and they don't know what they want. They don't feel they have a purpose, and they are not clear on what they want. Well, that is hallelujah, thank God, because that's why they're not manifesting it. So they just have to figure out what they want. Now, I'm not saying that's easy, but it's great, because if they really get focused, usually everything else will fall into place. So you do need a clear set of intentions. As I mentioned, I call this my GPS. You want to get into the present moment. So this is using techniques to get into alpha brainwaves, to get into the present moment, because this is where you can access parts of your brain to really create. Now, if negative beliefs or resistance comes up, because as you're manifesting and wanting to create, sometimes negative feelings come up. This is where you use the NAC approach. You notice the negative resistance. We use the accepting what is tools to get into present moment, and then now we get to choose again. Some of the reasons we will have negative resistance, it could be that these are the most popular or most common reasons. Why is it that I'm wanting to create my reality? And as I think about having all this abundance in my life, all this, money in my life, all this health, why is it that I feel guilty or negative? Well, it's a program, guilty. That's a hint. But usually one is you're thinking what society wants for you. And so if society's norm goes against what you want, then you may feel that resistance, right? So, for females that felt like society has held them down, not equal pay, or they can't have jobs like men, then when they want to do something, they may have this program running. They're not allowed to, they're not deserving or worthy because of their culture or their sex, right? So there's so many programs that you can be running. One of the reasons the resistance can come up is because you actually have a program that you're not deserving, you're not worthy, you're not good enough. So when you start to think about something that excites you, when you start to step into your light, this fear comes up. And so it's just a sign now that you have a program to clean up. That's all it is. It's resistance to clean up the program. We want to come from gratitude and appreciation, not from lack. I touched on this briefly. Often we're thinking and doing affirmations and working on things we're wanting to create in our life. That's our thought, but our feeling still is lack. In my practice with fertility, I see this a lot. The patients want the baby. They're doing some of the belief change manifestation techniques along with our Chinese medicine, functional medicine, even the IVF. And yet they're always looking for the baby, or there's all this worry and fear. So that's a sign that they're not really believing that it's going to happen, because the fact that they're looking for it or there's the fear that it's not going to happen shows you that you haven't put it in on a cellular level yet. It hasn't been imprinted. And that's okay, just more work to be done. But that's one of the signs, though, is if you're coming from lack or you don't believe it's going to happen, you want to work on your subconscious programming to believe that it's going to happen. And gratitude, if you're feeling grateful even before you have it, that is a sign that you've received it and your cells start to believe it. Like my fibromyalgia patient that started feeling healthy before she was literally healthy on the bed. She experienced it, and then she started making choices, opportunities. She started noticing opportunities to bring her along that path of health. And then you need to get out of your own way, and that's we'll talk about all that right now. So we're going to, before we wrap up, I'm going to look at our time here. I'm going to go through these a little bit more detail, and then we'll take some questions. So the first thing I mentioned is you have to know what you want. You have to set a clear intention. So thought concentrated on definite purpose becomes power. So thought is energy. Your active thought, becomes active energy. Concentrated thought is concentrated energy. Think about the sun. You sit out in the sun, no big deal. You take a magnifying glass and hold that magnifying glass over a leaf with the sun. So you have concentrated energy. It burns a hole in that leaf. That's concentrated thought. That's concentrated energy. Getting very clear and specific on what you want. Thought concentrated on definite purpose becomes power. So this is from Charles Haanel's book, The Master Key to Success. Highly recommend that book. The GPS that's my favorite analogy that I like to use. So when you're setting your intention, it needs to be positive, specific, in first person, present tense. Subconscious doesn't understand anything but present tense. So I want, I will is not talking to your subconscious. I am, I have, okay? And first person, so I, and positive. So you can't think of don't think of an elephant. It doesn't work for the subconscious, right? You can't put a negative in. It will think of whatever you're saying. So you got to say first person, positive, specific. Now, the reason I use the GPS analogy, going back to the fibromyalgia case study, is we didn't tell her to go to the gym. All we did is we gave her the destination of what health was like, what vitality was like, and she experienced it. She had a visual of herself, she had a kinesthetic, she felt it, and she could hear it. Also, what she was saying to herself and what other people were saying to herself. That's setting the GPS. And then you just start out. Now, when you do your GPS, when you turn on your GPS and hit set destination, do you start telling your GPS where to go? No, the GPS says turn left or right. You don't have to tell it anything except where your end result is. You only have to tell it the finish line. Then it will tell you how to get there. what happens if you go off and take a turn you take a right turn and it tells you to do a left turn? Recalculating. So as long as your subconscious is clear and you keep that clear in that program, you have your focus on what you're creating, that GPS is set. Even if you go off track by accident, something pulls you, you're going to get pulled back. Same thing if you have a negative program though, guys. Somebody gets you on the right track, you're here today, you're on right track, and you don't follow through, you're going to go back to your old program. So we still have to change programs. Reminding you that the law of attraction is really about vibration and about emotion. So in my training in clinical hypnotherapy, the key was your emotions. So your thinking, your thought is the intention, it's the compass, the intention of what you want, but the emotion is the charge behind the thought. The emotion is key. It's like the beacon. And if you have an affirmation, I am healthy and wealthy, but you don't feel it, then it's like a whisper to the universe. But if you really can feel it on a cellular level and believe it, that I'm healthy and wealthy, it's happening, I'm believing it, then it's like I'm healthy and wealthy. It's a loud beacon. So the emotion is key. In the choose again, remember, notice the friction, accept what is, get into alpha brainwave, so get out of the reaction, out of the reptilian brain. And now once you're alpha, choose again. How do you want to feel? And magnifying that feeling. It's the feeling that's key. Without the feeling, things don't happen. It's got to be a vibration. This is the language of the subconscious. It knows images and feelings, not so much words. And the part I mentioned about getting out of your way, I love this from Bill Bankston when I did his program, Energy Healing, his energy healing technique. He's done experiments. And again, I'll go into detail of the science and the experiments he's done. I'm just going to give you the conclusion of his experiments that he's done with MRIs and all the fun things. But what he showed was in healing experiments with cancer in mice, it was it's your subconscious that's linking up to each other. So they've shown that when your patient and you link up. When they have your brain scanned, both of you, and you're getting into this intention healing zone, your brains sync up, first of all. So subconscious to subconscious. So you don't sit there and go, heal, heal, heal. Why? Because if you're focusing on healing the person, you're in your conscious brain. You're in the 40-bit computer. It's a P brain. It's not a very strong processor. But if you can get out of your way and get into the subconscious, it's a supercomputer. It's 20 million bit computer. It's what's doing the work. So when he does his technique, he teaches you to get into the zone. He gets you into cycling. He teaches you how to do that. There's a feeling you feel in the body. And then you set your intention to the patient, whatever the intention is. And then you say, take what you need. And then you could talk about groceries with them because it's no longer a conscious to conscious connection. It's a subconscious to subconscious connection. So you're not focusing on healing them because as soon as you start to focus, then you're in your conscious mind and you've gotten in your own way again. You may have heard it said a different way. It's intention without attention. Another way to say it is intention without tension. Another way to say it is don't be attached to form and outcome. And so if you're doing this manifestation technique and you're thinking about it 24/7, then you're starting to get in your conscious. You can practice it once a day, an hour a day, and then let it go. Leave it be, right? If you constantly are getting into your conscious, so you could be interrupting it. So you need to get out of your way. A short story here. I was in a funk in my clinic, and I call out my good colleague, my good friend in Texas, and I'm bitching and complaining about my funk. So I'm really adding to it, making it more real. And she's into this belief change modality stuff. And she said, you got to get out of your way. And I go, why? She goes, you got to get out of yourself, Lorne. Why don't you go buy something for a homeless person by the Whole Foods? There's a Whole Foods near my clinic. She's visiting me. We see them. They hang out there. She goes, you need to get out of your way. Go buy something. And that's literally what I did. I went, got off my problem. I bought a meal for a homeless person and gave it to them. Got out of my way. And literally it just started that shift, right? Just that shift alone made a big difference. So, and there's that talk. So it is a conscious shift, right? The world within is the cause. The world without is the effect. To change the effect, you must change the cause. What Charles Howell's saying here is don't get focused on just the illusion, on the five senses, what you're seeing in the environment. It's an inside job. I interpret Albert Einstein's quote, "We cannot solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them," as we need to get to a different level of consciousness. If we're trying to solve these problems with our conscious mind, we're trying to solve COVID with our conscious mind, then we're trying to solve it at the same level we created at. The first step is getting inside. We got to have a conscious shift. And so it's inner work. We want to reverse the evidence from the senses. So when you look at the techniques to quiet the mind and my approach of what I'm calling NAC, and remember, when I say NAC, I'm taking all these modalities and tools I've learned and experienced, and they fit so nicely. So as I learn other ones, they all fit into either N, A, or C. So the inner work to reverse the evidence from the senses is closing those eyes and going inside. And I use the notice. I'm being triggered. Okay, I see that. Everything that happens is neutral. I'm giving it meaning. Now I'm going to accept what is. Accepting what is, by the way, doesn't mean I'm resigned to what happened. It doesn't mean that I like what's happening. It doesn't mean that I agree with what's happening. All it means is I'm accepting what is. I'm not going to fight with reality. I'm going to accept what is, because when I am resourced in accepting what is, and I get into the alpha brainwaves, now that I'm resourced and whole brained, I can either remove myself from the situation, change or improve the situation, and if I can't change or improve or remove, then continue to accept what is. But the key here is to remove or reverse the evidence from the senses, because they can really fool us. So to be healthy, you want to practice feeling whole. To be wealthy, practice feeling abundant. To be happy, practice gratitude. And another quote from Eckhart Tolle is, present moment. When you are present in this moment, you break the continuity of your story. This is the NAC. When you believe in the story, you're making it real. When you believe in the story, you amplify the negative emotion. When you believe in the story, you're at the effect of it. Everything that's happening is neutral. So what I was sharing with you are present moment tools and gimmicks to get you to the present moment, because when you are present, when I was in that bathtub, I break the continuity of the story of past and future. I'm now in the present. And then true intelligence arises, and so does love. Now, a key point here is right action must follow right thinking. You can read all the self-help books you want, but man, knowledge is not enough. The value comes from the application of the knowledge, not from the knowledge. I have people that come to my practice and tell me I've read every self-help book, but they don't do the practice. And so you got to practice. I practice my tools every single day. Even when I'm in a good place, I keep doing it. Many people only come to you when they're needing a real fixing. I want to make sure that I can maintain this level of consciousness, this level of abundance, this level of joy, and maybe I can even take it to a higher level. Like the professional athlete, Michael Jordan, he didn't say I'm the best player in the NBA. He kept on practicing. He wanted to know if he can maintain it and can he get even better. So the key here is the value is not from the knowledge. What I just shared with you is not going to make the shift. I gave you the why behind the how. The how is the application. You need to do the work on a daily basis to get the benefit. I see some people smiling at the picture I put in there. It's cute, eh? The women are all smiling at it. The men are like shaking their heads. So as we close here and take a few questions, I want to bring up a few things. One is I mentioned I'm going to do a 4-day training, 2 hours a day for 8 hours. So that's going to be on the lornebrown.com website. It will be listed by Thursday or Friday. And I think our start date is going to be May 11th. Monday, May 11th, 2020. I'm going to do 4 days, 2 hours a day, where we're going to really apply stuff and go into, there's much more I want to share with you, but this was an introduction. So a lot of application, a lot of practice, and theory and science and the studies behind it, because I really love the left brain, the why behind things that we're doing it. So we'll do that in that workshop for sure. So, and also on lornebrown.com, all the previous Conscious Tuesday talks by Yvonne, Randine, Lori, and Keith will be on this site. And I have a whole series on there called Conscious Talks. That's why they'll be on this site. This has been up for several months. So Lynn McTaggart's on there, Bruce Lipton, people I've interviewed about consciousness and the new science of consciousness. I've interviewed them. They're on this website. So that's why this course will be on this website, because it really relates to that. That's the important part of that. And then lastly, and then we'll do a few questions, and maybe we could do some practice time, but I know we're running late here, is what I do for myself. So I have my NAC I shared with you, and I don't expect you to be able to run with that today. It takes some learning and practice, which I'm happy to teach those during the May workshop. One thing that you can do right off the bat, and if time allows it, maybe we'll do this for 15 minutes. We'll just take a few questions and do this for 15 minutes. What I do every day, and what I teach my patients to get into alpha, to elicit the relaxation responses as follows. Remember I said when the heart and brain conflict, the heart wins, right? When the subconscious and conscious conflict, the subconscious wins. So the key here is, if you're going to drift 95% of the time into those programs, why don't we get them on the same program? So when I drift, I'm running the program that I want to run in the 5%. That's the goal here. So it doesn't matter. I don't have to focus on being conscious all the time, because when I drift, my 95% is now running the 5% programs I want. That's the key here, right? That's for me. I'm a lazy guy. I don't have to be conscious and awake 24/7. That's a lot of energy for that little computer. So I want to change the subconscious. So here's what I've been doing for a while, and part of what I teach my patients, and it's easy to pick up. Step one is I go into a breath technique. There's many out there. I like the in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8. The exhale is key because it engages the parasympathetic nervous system. We know this through heart rate variability studies. So the long exhale. So in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and out for a count of 8. So I breathe for a while. I'm just telling my nervous system I'm safe. That's what the breath does. 2, I do a body scan, because remember, I want to quiet my mind and my body. I want to go inside. I close my eyes and I start to just do a body scan, bringing relaxing energy from my head to my toes. Let's do a quick experiment here with those in the live webinar. Close your eyes for a moment. I just want to share with you, and then I'm going to explain some of the neuroscience behind this. Close your eyes, and without moving or touching, can you bring your awareness to your right hand so you're aware you have a right hand? Just notice if you have a right hand. All right, in the chat room, how many people were able to tell they had a right hand without looking at it, moving it, or touching it? So that is body scan. If you can do that, you can do a body scan. What you've done is you turn your focus inside. When you're looking out on the 5 senses, you're what's called narrow focused. And when you go inside, you can do this with your eyes open, by the way, open focus, peripheral. We have learned now that when we do open focus, our brain starts to go into the 10 hertz, the alpha waves. That's why the guided imagery, or in hypnosis, when we do induction, we get you to breathe, and then we tell you to imagine a meadow and hear the water lapping against your boat. Can you smell the sea air? Do you hear the birds? Can you feel the warm sand? That is you going inside, just like you were aware of your hand. When you do that, that causes open focus, inside focus, and we now know that the brain starts to go into 10 hertz by doing that. That's why we're doing this. Remember, I always like to give you the why behind the how. So we're breathing to tell the body that it's safe. Long exhale, in for 4, hold for 4, long exhale for a count of 8. I am safe. Starting to take us out of high beta, taking ourselves out of that sympathetic drive, getting ourselves into alpha and parasympathetic. Then we do a body scan. We just focus, being aware of our lips with our eyes closed, this relaxing energy down our jaws through our whole body. Again, alpha. The open brain focus by Les Fleming, PhD. He's the one that figured out this open focus. Dr. Joe Dispenza uses this in all of his meditations. Les Fleming is the one that kind of discovered this. Long story, very short. He was hooked up to his EEG machines trying to elicit alpha brainwaves. He couldn't. He got frustrated. He tried all these techniques from Buddhism, all these techniques that are supposed to elicit alpha. It didn't work for him. And then he gave up, said it's done, it doesn't work. But he still had the machine hooked up. And when he finally surrendered, when he finally let go, he went automatically into 10 hertz alpha brainwaves. So this is a form of open focus. That's why the surrender and release and let go from the Course in Miracles is so powerful, by the way. So we breathe, we do the body scan, And then I do a heart-brain coherence technique. There's many techniques from many cultures. Heart Math have one. There's so many online. And basically, you do a technique where you're visualizing, bringing in light energy into your heart. We're doing a breathing technique, and we're sending out love and stuff into the ether. Now, when I do this with you guys, we slow it down, and we really will explain it. I just want to let you know this is what I'm doing. So if you want, go on Greg Braden, Heart-Brain Coherence. Look for his meditation. There's some out there on that. That's the choose again. You're focusing on bringing up joy. You're bringing up gratitude. And at first, it may be a challenge. After a while, I can close my eyes and just start to bring up those feelings. And that changes chemistry in my body. That changes epigenetics in my body when I do this. When I start to feel the gratitude, and I really feel it, my eyes are closed, I've closed out my five senses, and I bring up joy, I bring up gratitude, I bring up abundance, I bring up compassion. When I do that, if I'm feeling that, well, if I'm feeling it, that means chemistry's changed my body. You're changing the epigenetics of your body just through your thinking. This is the awakening, the healer. So I want to take a few questions. Here's how you can reach Lorne Brown, being me. I have the Lorne Brown website. As I mentioned, that's where we're putting up the Conscious Talks. So all the Conscious Tuesday talks will be there. And that's where I'm going to be offering the intensive 8-hour workshop on really learning the NAC. And it's really, there's going to be theory, but it's practical. So you're not coming to watch, you're coming to apply the knowledge. Remember, the value is in the application of the knowledge. So it's very experiential. If you're going to do that, be ready to do the experiential part. HealthySeminars.com. You guys know me. Many of you, my colleagues, know me through HealthySeminars.com. That's where we offer the online continuing education for acupuncturists, naturopaths, functional medicine practitioners. And then I have patients online here too, I believe. I think this went out to our patients, so I have the public and patients. So clinically, that's my clinic in Vancouver, acubalance.ca. And I will do this stuff one-on-one with my patients and my colleagues. I do this through telehealth right now. And I'm going to continue doing this through telehealth because it's worked so well. So another value of being shut down is I was able to do this for patients that really wanted this during the shutdown, and it's worked well. I miss having the needles to induce that trance. However, we're having great fun, and so I'm going to keep doing that. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Check out healthyseminars.com, resources for more free stuff, replays, and lornebrown.com will have, if this stuff feeds your soul, if this really interests you, then there's several hours of conscious talks of this material. Besides what we're going to be adding from Conscious Talks Pass to the site, there's a whole bunch of interviews already. So if you like this quantum physics stuff, then I encourage you to check it out. And probably by Thursday, we'll have information up about the course. It's going to be May 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, Monday to Thursday for 2 hours. Take care, be well, stay safe.